How's it going? My name's Luke Rowland, and it's the back to school smoke session, the beginning portion of the Rowland Stoner podcast. I'll be your host. Yes, the day has finally come for me. It's the first day of my last year at school. I'm not just graduating college this year, I'll be done with academia for a good while after this, not going to graduate school. Which means it really is like the beginning of the end. It has begun. And you can tell it's my senior year because today I finished up all my classes, and by the time I was finished, it wasn't even noon. I just know how to pick a good schedule. And yeah, there are some pros and cons to being a senior, like the aforementioned one I just said. But it's also nice because you get to choose the cool classes that you've always wanted to have. You get first dibs on them. So you get to pick what classes you want whenever you want. Which is why I got to sleep in till 10 today, and I got out of class at 12. The rest of the day is mine. But the con of senior year is that with all of that free time also comes a really big sense of existential dread. Because after senior year, the only two guaranteed things in life are debt and death. So I'm very happy that I'm taking existentialism this year so I can really prepare for my after college lifestyle. How did my first day go? It went pretty well. I found out that I have an Australian philosophy professor, so it'll make listening to his lectures actually possible. I'll actually be entertained, because I have previous experience with paying attention to Steve Irwin. Hopefully it won't end the same way with my Australian professor as it did with Steve Irwin. That would kind of suck. My professor was like, well, what really is the mind? Like, is artificial intelligence really sentient, mate? Who knows? Crikey! Like, that would suck. But then after my class, I proceeded about my usual day. The first of the last of my usual days. I have a lot more coming, but what I usually do is I wander around campus looking for people. I'm people watching to make jokes about them. Either to them or later on a podcast. It depends if they're funny. But because I was a senior, I got to go to I knew all of the good nooks and crannies of the campus to go and find interesting, captive audiences to do jokes on. I followed this one lady into a secret elevator, and she was a faculty member, and she was wearing a mask. And it really reminded me of Batman, because we were in a secret elevator, and she was wearing a mask. I couldn't tell if she was laughing at that joke or not. Batman doesn't really smile. But then Arizona State actually has a lot of secret things on campus, like secret elevators, secret gardens, secret drug rings. And I visited 2 of the 3 today. And when I was at the secret garden, I saw exactly what I expected to see. And I saw 2 girls eating lunch underneath a tree. I saw another sorority chick. She was on a Zoom call, probably for Rush or something. I saw 2 shirtless guys meditating and doing yoga in the field. And I saw a skater that was brooding in the corner. It's just really cool to see because, after 4 years of going to the same college and stuff, and, watching skyscrapers erect around campus every day like it's morning wood or something. It's just cool to see that the more things change, the more they also stay the same. Because that was the exact same scene in the secret garden ever since the days that I was a skater brooding in the corner. So it was a real full circle moment for me. And as I was heading home from the Secret Garden, I went through the section of campus where it's like all of the tents that have promos and free stuff. So I was like, sweet, I can get some free stuff. And I was reading one of the signs of the tents, and it just said the word reading, and I was like, oh, I like to read books. So I went over, and I saw that they had these slap on the wrist bookmarks. You know, I used to love these as a kid. I used to think, I'm pretty sure that this is what 5th graders first used to see if they were into impact play for like later on in their lives. Because like it doesn't like hurt or like bruise you or anything, but it leaves a nice sting. Or maybe schools gave these to teachers so they would stop beating kids on the wrist. That's why you never saw them at Catholic schools. Nah. They probably just made these to make reading a book more mobile. Which is an idea that I could get behind. So that's why I went up to the table and got one, because I wanted one of these. And this guy, he kind of just starts like cornering me and starts giving me the spiel. And ironically didn't read past the sign that said reading more than just the word reading. And this guy just starts talking, and I'm like, all right, okay, man. And he goes, hey, son, before you take that, let me give you this spiel about my organization. And I go, all right, man, let me hear the spiel about ASU's reading club. And he goes, oh, we're actually more than just a reading club. We're actually an outreach program that tries to teach kids from elementary schools of underprivileged areas how to read. And like we teach kids how to read who really need it. It's a good cause. Do you want to join? Do you want to sign up? And I took the bookmark, I slapped it on my wrist, and I said, no. He's like, you don't want to teach kids how to read, son? For $14 an hour? $15 an hour? I'm like, well, like, I don't not like that. Like, that's cool, that's valiant work and all that. It's just that, I was more of just like a bigger fan of reading in general. Like, that's why I read the sign. I wanted to read. Like, I am myself am a reader, and I'm trying to get better. So I needed that bookmark, this bookmark. But my parents, they're actually teachers. So I grew up around kids learning how to read, like the student education environment. Yeah. And he's like, well, then you'd be perfect for this position, sir. Like, why don't you join? And I go, hey, listen, man, you read, so you know the phrase, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He goes, yeah, I do. Well, I'm trying to chuck my apple into another orchard. You get what I'm saying? It's just, okay, but, like, come on, you don't want to teach kids how to read? And I'm like, well, if you have adults who needed to learn how to read, like, I'll do that. Like, that kind of sounds cool. And he goes, no, I only teach kids how to read, sir. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. If you're only teaching kids how to read, you're not into adults. And then I walked away with this thing. Even though, if we think about it, maybe he should have been the one in these cups. But anyway, we got a great back to school special for you guys. The fun fact of the day is about coffee shops and the history of them and the different vibes and stuff about them throughout the world, because I did a lot of promoting around coffee shops, and I know a lot of you guys are going to be spending some studying time in some coffee shops, so it's always good to know the environment of which you work best in. And then the debate of the day is actually about that. What's the best study environment for you to work best in? We're going to three sides of the coin that, so it'll be some good shit. Stay tuned. Happy beginning of school, and go learn some shit and go teach some underprivileged kids how to read. All right, guys, I'm spreading the word. I'm still doing the good. All right, and if you're an adult and you don't know how to read, come by and I'll teach you some books. We can read together. It'll be great. I can read you my material. Anyway, I still got a hit. Cheers, mates.